know we're a little later in our time tonight, but we are excited because what we are doing is we are able to share in conversation together. So I know that people have different bedtimes. I know that people are in different time zones. So I would love to hear from you, but I also understand that we have to go to bed at some point. So just like any night, you are welcome to share. You are welcome to, of course, join us on the replay, comment on the replay. We see a lot of people, especially now on Facebook, who come back and comment on the replay. We always respond. We want you to be part of this community conversation. But I'm super excited tonight because our conversation is centered around, can you reimagine? So a lot of us use our imagination for things, right? A lot of us, it's easy to see what's right in front of us sometimes, but imagining what can be, imagining what is possible. Sometimes we're limited by what we know now to kind of imagine what can be, and sometimes we're limited by the past, right? By what has happened before, so it's hard for us to imagine what can happen because we may have these big ideas sometimes and then we realize, but last time I tried to do this is what happened, and it can be very discouraging to try to move forward in something new when the last time you tried something new you didn't get the best response, or the last time you tried something new you didn't get the best result, or the last time you tried something new, you didn't have a lot of support, right? We can have all these different reasons, all these different things that kind of stop us from pushing forward or from forging a path forward. And even in past episodes, right, we have talked about who you have around you. We talked about making sure you get rest. We talked about pushing past traumas. We have talked about so many different things. So tonight, it's not a real, like last week, we had a very not heavy topic, but a very complex topic. Tonight, it could be complex, right? It can be imagined as that, right? But I think the big thing is like being open to using imagination and being open to seeing beyond what you may have seen before, or seeing beyond what you may be accustomed to, or seeing beyond what you may be used to, or seeing beyond what you even think could have happened, right? One of our past episodes when we talked about kind of reimagining in a different sense, we talked about, okay, what I thought was going to happen didn't happen, right? But that's not necessarily a negative thing. That could be a very positive, exciting thing. So what I thought was going to happen didn't happen, but now I have this space to create something that I initially didn't think of, right? So welcome into the vent. Right, it's all that, and then it's welcome. Thank you for coming in, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, whether you are on YouTube. We got our YouTube channel up now. So whether you're on the Vent Live on YouTube, whether you're on Miss Wet on IG, whether you're following my Facebook page or one of my friends up there, welcome into our community. Welcome to this chat tonight. Welcome into this space. If you have never been in the vent, if you have never been a part of the conversation, the vent is simply a safe space to talk, a safe space to be heard. It is a virtual refuge. It is a virtual safe space. It is a virtual hush harbor where we can share, where we can all take part in. We can all, even if I told some people like last week, even if you just take a part and you go, the fact that you got something and you were able to hold on to that, hey, even if you're on for 2 seconds, welcome in. Thank you for joining. If somebody invited you, if you came on your own, if you like, I'm just coming up in here to see what you're talking about, come on in. Tonight's conversation is really, really wrapped around imagination. Like we all, even when we were little, we had some type of imagination, whether you had an imaginary friend, right? Or whether you had, sorry, y'all, I'm watching this from my event page so I can make sure I see the comments because we've been doing restream. So whether you were invited in, whether you came on your own, whether you've been with us since the very beginning in 2021, 22, or you know what, you just caught on this week, or you came to our in-person, come on in. So tonight our conversation really is wrapped around imagination, and it's wrapped around reimagining what could be. And where did this episode come from? To be honest, this episode came from this weekend. I was able to be a part of an event called Tangled Roots, and it explored culture from an African Black standpoint of having tangled roots, right? Many of us have coily hair, kinky hair. And it wasn't just about hair, it was about our past, things that happened in the past. But it was also about, well, how do we use what we know, what we've learned, what we've experienced to move forward, to build businesses, to become entrepreneurs, to build community, to learn more about ourselves, to grow and be more financially stable. It was really, really good. So there were panels about our past, present, and future, right? And we talked about those things. And what really, really inspired me was the fact that um we learn so much from our past. Like we often the past get a bad rap, y'all. The past often gets a bad rep because we look at the past like, that happened, let's move forward. But a way that we can reimagine our past is, oh, I learned this, right? Knowing what we know, right? We there's this I forgot where the word is from, Sankofa, right? And it talks about going back and fetch it, or going back and getting something that was left behind, going back in order to move forward. So knowing my roots, knowing where I came from, knowing things about myself, knowing things about my family, that is not something that has to have a negative connotation every time. Often knowing your roots, knowing where you came from, knowing what your family has been able to overcome, knowing these things can help propel you forward. So it's not something that holds you back and freezes you where you are, but it's something that's able to catapult you into what you can be, right? Oftentimes, I wonder why I say things like this. Or I wonder why I talk like this. I wonder why I love this. And often we can trace that back to people or places or things down our lineage. And that to me is exciting. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna confess, I'm a history buff. I love history, specifically Black history. I love to explore, I love to learn new things about the past. Right? So it's reimagining. I love to learn those things because and I've been in a lot of conversations. Like, you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. We can learn what people have done before, and maybe we modernize it, right? Maybe we make it relevant to whoever we're trying to communicate. Maybe we, right, like the telephone, right? Telephone, that wasn't always something that we had, right? And even it has evolved, right? So this is an example why how we learn from the past to go forward. People need to communicate, right? So we started off with something like hieroglyphics, right? And then we move into these different images and things like that. Then we start writing things, instead of writing them in clay and on walls and on rock, we start writing things on scrolls, right? Then we move from writing on scrolls to writing with ink on paper, right? And then to get that to people, we started having people go from place to place to get it, right? Then we have things like the Pony Express, but then we have this mail truck that goes to places. Then one day somebody said it got to be a way that we can talk and we can hear each other. So now we have the phones, right? And I may have skipped a couple generations, right? But now we have these phones, we have phone lines. Yeah, anybody ever seen a rotary phone? My dad talked about they had a party line. So everybody on his street had the same phone. So if somebody down the street was using the phone line, you couldn't use the phone line. So it's like everybody got a phone line in their house, but it's on one line. So if my neighbor using the phone, it's a party line. We can't use the phone, right? So now we have house phones, right? We have the rotary phones that's on the wall, and you got to dial. You dial, right? Then it moves to we have phones with the cord. Then we had cordless phones. Now it's like, okay, now I gotta travel, right? Y'all get where I'm going, right? Then we go to car phones and wireless phones, beepers, pagers. The thing has been that we learn from our past. People need to communicate. How do we do that? And then how do we evolve that into the future so that people are able to hold on to this as they move forward? They're able to use some of the same things, maybe in different ways, or maybe in new ways, or maybe the same type of thing, but it's different, right? Because the cell phones we have today are not the rotary phones, right? And the way we send mail today is not always a paper through the mail system. Sometimes it is an email, or sometimes it is a message, a text message. Sometimes we move from text messages to audio. Now we can voice record and send that. We move from voice recording to now I can see you on FaceTime or on some kind of Google video, right? Or whatever that may be for you, right? So it's exciting in the sense that we can look back over where we've come and reimagine how we communicate, how we talk, how we do things. That to me, I don't know about y'all, but that to me is important because one of the big things that happened at the event was, one, we talked about how to move forward, but we also drew those things from the past. We drew those things from past experience. We drew those things from um, knowing experiences other people had. So how do we learn from that in order to push forward? So my question to you is, what are some things that you may be reimagining? Right. So we talked about things don't always go your way. So is there anything for you that has happened that you had to reimagine what it could be? Right. I can start off. Right. Just in case we need some examples. Right. So for me, I went to school, undergrad for political science, right? I was like, I'm gonna be a public administrator, or I'm gonna go to law school, or right. I had this list of things. I'm gonna be a city manager, right? I had this list of things that I wanted to do, right? But now I have moved into more of it has evolved into more of like a social justice. So now that I know the government background and policies and legislation, that has now evolved into, okay, how do I help people who don't have a voice gain a voice now? Like, it's been reimagined, right? So I may not be a city manager, I may not be working in the government or for the government, but my shift has been, okay, with the knowledge that I have and with the passion that I have, how do I now serve people so that the voiceless now have a voice? How do I put myself in spaces where people who are overlooked or people who are marginalized are now represented? And even if I'm not the representative, who do I contact? Who do I build bridges with? Who do I build relationship now so that, yeah, I have this degree, but something's been reimagined. So I'm going down a different route, even with what I already have. I'm able to leverage that to move forward, not just for me, but for other people as well. Do y'all have anything like that? Like, is there anything that you have had to reimagine? So this happened. So now I kind of got to reimagine what can be, right? So what can you reimagine to create a better future? For some of us, it may be, I thought I was going to be in a certain area, but now I live in this state or in this city. So now that my context has changed, now that my geographic location has changed, what have you changed, or what are you going to do, or what do you have plans to do so that moving forward, maybe you can forge a different path, or the path that you originally were going to go down is different. So it's like, okay, and even if you don't have a full thought or you're not completely sure, have you had to do that? Have you had to reimagine? Have you had to put yourself in a space to be like, you know what? I thought that this was going to be my job, but now I'm realizing that for some of us, I'm realizing that this is not what I really like to do. Right. For others of us, it is, I love this, but it needs some tweaks. Right. I love being a doctor, but we need more people to look like me in those spaces. I love practicing law, but there's some legislation that need to change in order for certain communities to have a voice, right? I love, whatever it is, you can love it and still know, you know what, it needs some tweaks, right? I love working in the mental health field, but I know some other areas that need these same type of programs that may not have the funding. So now who do I connect with to kind of reimagine that, so that children, so that mothers, so that fathers, so that teenagers, so that the elderly can now have access to things that maybe they didn't have access to before. So have you ever found yourself in that space where you're like, okay, this is not necessarily where I thought I was going to be, but now I'm reimagining what this can be, not just for me, but for people who even may be connected to me, right? So one of the things I'm working on with some of my friends is like reimagining some spaces that we have been in, like the vent, right? We have been totally, completely online. But now we have started reimagining, what does the vent on the road look like? And that was not an initial thought for me. My initial thought was, we're going to come online, we're going to create this online community, right? Because, and this is not bad, but because I know that I have been blessed to be connected to people in different time zones, right? And I've been blessed to be connected to people who have so much going on that for them to hop onto a live is much easier than for them to try to get to me, or for us to try to meet at a certain location. So the event has now been reimagined into, okay, yes, we've been online. So now what is the next step, right? So the next step previously was, okay, we're going to do a live. We're going to be in in-person brunch. We're going to be in North Suffolk. We're going to bring people together. And do you know what happened? We packed out the place. We didn't have enough space. So now we have to reimagine again, what does this look like? So moving forward, what does the event look like? So the event is possibly going to be like the event in Suffolk. It's going to be, we are going to have a social in Atlanta. We're going to have a social in Columbus. We're going to have a social in Sacramento. We're going to have a social in, like now it is, where are the people that we're connected to? Because safe space, we're bringing a safe space to you, right? So that's part of kind of my just personal reimagining. And that reimagining for you can be on a social level. It could be reimagining from a professional standpoint. It could be reimagining ministry. It can be reimagining what family looks like. It could be reimagining what success looks like. It could be reimagining whatever financial freedom looks like, what happiness looks like. So it's not always necessarily tangible things, but I want to reimagine, because many of us only have whatever we've seen, right? So for some people, the American dream is the only thing that happening. Like, you need a spouse or a partner, two and a half kids, a dog named Spike, right? A white fence, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home with a driveway and 2-car garage, right? That is what happiness. But for somebody else, it's like, I don't want kids. Right? Or I want to live by the beach, or I want to live in a different country, or I want to be nomadic and I want to travel, right? So we're reimagining what it means, even if that is the American dream. Right? But your dream doesn't have to be the American dream. What is your dream? What are you reimagining to create a better future for you? Whatever better is for you, right? Whatever future means, because that may be a better tomorrow. Yours may be, I'm not setting an alarm in the morning because I'm gonna sleep in and get some rest. Right? Ms. Blunt said, reimagine to make a better future. Yes, what can be? So my biggest thing is always breaking out of the box, because we often get set. I'm going to keep saying it, right? We often get set in, this is what life should be. Why? Why do you think that? Right? Why? Because somebody told you, or because this is what you saw, but you can create. And that's the whole idea too of hey Precious, hey Miss Blunt, hey Terry. That is the whole basis. Hey, let me see who we got on IG, y'all. I've been trying to keep up because it's not popping up here. I'm sorry. Hey, I see Angelica, Yale, hey Reby. Hey y'all, thanks for coming in. Hey Yale, hey Miss So Blessed, hey Bobby, my brother in here. So thank y'all for coming in. And I really want to hear, like, what are some of your ideas? And nothing is. I was on a phone call yesterday, and y'all, I'm gonna calm down. I get excited. I just start talking about everything. But I'm gonna come back. But this is the last thing, and then I'm gonna go back to the question up here. One thing that one of my friends told me, he was like, you either I was just sharing, right, some things that have been reimagining with the group, and he was like, you're either on to something or you're just completely crazy, right? And I didn't get offended, because I was like, you're right, either I am just crazy and have lost my mind, or we can really do something and really reimagine what things that have been established, what things that have been traditional. We're either crazy, because he crazy too, because he with me doing it, right? Or we're just really about to do something that we can't even imagine yet, because we're still trying to figure it out. And that to me is exciting, because we have decided that we don't have to stick to the status quo. And I'm saying this to you because you have to decide, I'm not going to stick to the status quo. I'm not going to stick to what they have prescribed to me and say, hey, take this and you'll be good, right? I'm not going to stick to, this is what you should be doing. This, you know what? People around your age are usually here. That's fake. Like, the rules are fake. I don't care what anybody says to you. The rules are fake. You can create a new future. You can create a different present through your imagination. And it sounds crazy until you do it, right? So Courtland's phone sounded crazy until somebody did it. A holograph, like holographic images and holograms sounded absolutely like, what you mean I'm gonna be looking at somebody that's not really there and they gonna be walking around? It sounded crazy until somebody did it, right? Planes. It sounded crazy until you see this big old, however many tons vehicle flying in the sky. It sounds crazy, but we get on planes. People get on planes every single day. It sounds crazy until somebody does it. So I don't know if this is a conversation or if this is just like me sharing excitement with y'all, but this is really like, it is crazy until you imagine it, and not just imagine it, but you actually try it. Like, I guess so. I guess my part of my charge is also like, yo, just do it. Like, whatever it is you're thinking, and you like, nah, that ain't gonna work. Do it. Try it. Take a step. Tell somebody. Tell somebody, because they might be just as crazy as you are, and they catch on, and they like, you know what? Can you believe we did this? We did this, right? And part of this conversation is also this idea, and this is something I really want to share, of Afrofuturism. So if anybody knows, if you know me, if you don't know me, one of my big things is Black culture, African American culture, and history. Like, I love history. I used to be a history teacher. I'm a history buff. I can talk about history for hours and hours and hours. We'll not do that to you tonight. But this idea of Afrofuturism is so, it's not new. First of all, it may be more popular now, but it's not new. I think it goes back to like the 70s or the 80s, right? It's not a new concept. We may be talking about it more now, but this idea of Afrofuturism is that we take this, it's like a aesthetic, we take this science and mix it with history and the African diaspora, and you create these new things. So it's like the bionic woman, right, with brown skin and a fro, right? It is like Hercules flying on, what's, y'all know them hoverboards with the backpacks. It's like Hercules with locks, and he got like a pack on that shoots you into the sky, right? It is like Star Trek, and everybody is melanated, right? It is like we're taking our roots and using those roots to go into the future, right? And it sounds crazy, right? So I don't know who's gonna stay in, I don't know who's gonna go out, but I'm excited either way, right? It sounds crazy, but one of the things I read with one researcher was like, it has been so hard for Black people to see themselves in the future because of our past, because of the hardships we placed in the past, because of restrictions that have been put on us in our present, because of things that have happened and are happening. It's often hard for us to see ourselves beyond where we are now. So here comes Afrofuturism saying, no, we can be here, right? We can be standing in the middle of a desert, and all of a sudden, right, real like Black Panther, this light comes down and blasts us out into another country, right? It is the idea that we do exist in the future, right? I was reading another article that talked about AI, how facial recognition does not work as what's the word I want, accurately on people with melanated skin. Why? Because people with melanated skin often aren't working in those spaces. So now if something happens to a brown girl around 30, it may look like me, it may look like a lady that doesn't need, right, my identity may be linked to it when I could have been in a totally different place, because people with melanated skin aren't always working on the processes. So there's some issues with them recognizing our faces. So now, oh, it could be me or 50 other girls, because we're not in the space to help make the decisions and help tweak the technology for the nuances and the differences, right? There's a disparity there, because we also aren't always included in conversations about the future, because there are a lot of people that don't necessarily want us there, but we got to put ourselves there whether they want us there or not, right? That's a whole nother life or a whole nother day. But the thing is, we have to imagine ourselves in those spaces, and then we have to use our present and our past. So we use that to push our children into STEM, right? Or STEAM or STREAM. It's like 5 different ones right now, right? We use the information that we know, knowing that there aren't a lot of Black girls in tech, right? Now there are scholarships, and now there are programs built specifically for the future to help elementary school girls, middle school girls now get into STEM and interested now, so that when they get to their future, they have a basis. When they go to college, their interest is already peaked, right? I'm gonna get into engineering. I'm gonna go into chemistry. I'm gonna go into, whatever it is that makes me want to get there. Knowing that there aren't a lot of products or a lot of people that are still Black owned in hair product companies or beauty companies. Now our daughters can be chemists and work in that field, these billion-dollar industries, but we got to set them up in the present based off what information we have from the past so we can set them up for their future. Does this make sense? Y'all talk to me, because I like when y'all talk to me, and I want to hear what you're thinking, what you're saying. Like when you hear about Afrofuturism, when you hear about us learning from our past, taking things from our present, setting our children, and not even just our children, our grandchildren, setting up kids, young adults, teenagers that we know for the future. Like, what are your thoughts? What do you think about that? And what are some ways that you may be helping or thinking about helping younger people or people under your influence? Like what does that look like for you? What does that sound like for you? What about that really sticks out for you? Because it's exciting. Well, y'all probably already know, right? It's really exciting for me because we have the information. Our thing now is pushing it out, right? So I want to set you up as parents, as influencers, as grandparents, as mentors. We often want to set the people that we have influence up for the future, to have a better future, and we're able to advise them, we're able to counsel them, we're able to give them information, again based on what we've been through, what we've experienced, and where we are now, so that we can catapult them, push them, right, blast them into a future that's much better, right? It's the Jetsons, right? It's the Jetsons, and they're, I forgot what their robot name, right? But it's the Jetsons in Madagascar, right? It's the Jetsons, and they're in New Orleans, right? And they eating crawfish and gator bites, and they are driving their flying car, right? And they go into the family reunion in Mississippi, right? It's that, it is our roots mixed in with our future. So what does that mean to you? Or where do you see yourself in the future? Do you see yourself in the future? Maybe that's the most basic question. Do you see yourself in the future? And what do you look like? And maybe those questions are rhetorical, right? Maybe those questions are things that we think about. Or maybe those questions are things that we ponder. Or maybe those questions are things that we talk to our friends and family about. Like, you know what? We talked about a lot of things, right? My mom is in. Hey, mommy. My mom said sharing with elementary age students what they can do, providing them with the info at an early age. I agree with that. And my mom, I will say, my mom shared a lot with me even when I was younger, like knowing things about my family, not just my family history, but also knowing things about history in general, right? Because my mom is a teacher as well. So one of the things she always taught me about was things like Juneteenth, right? She taught me about things like our Black history and people that made great impacts. So I think learning that at a young age, not only one, you said telling them what they can do. Like somebody pouring into you from the very start. If you're constantly hearing you can do it, that builds up your confidence. That builds up your self-esteem. So when we talk to our children, when we talk to other adults, and we tell them, oh, you got this, you can do this, we're speaking positive things over them. I don't think we always understand how big of a deal that is. Like that means a lot to hear. You're doing a great job. Oh, you aced that. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're gonna be the next president. You're gonna be the next, right? We hear that, and sometimes we say it and then we're just like, oh, it's just encouraging. But you're really building someone up to say, oh my gosh, that is possible. Because one, you may be the only voice they hear, right? So now we're inspiring other minds to reimagine, right? You telling a Black man how good he looks, right? From a very like innocent space, right? Or telling him, like, you know what, you did that, right? That gives people, like, you never know what people reimagine, because you don't know what the rest of their day was like. You don't know what else they're gonna run into, but you may be the only thing they held on to. Like, you know what, that person really encouraged me today when she told me I could do this, right? When my teacher, you ever had conversations and somebody like what's your best teacher or your favorite teacher? People usually go back to like elementary or middle school. Like, we have good professors, we have good high school teachers, no shade, right? But a lot of times people go back to elementary and middle school because those grades are such a pivotal time in life, right? And they remember the people, they remember the people that really encouraged them and told them they could do it and showed them new things and exposed them to things that they never could imagine. Or they talk about somebody who really put a damper on them, because you don't forget those moments and you don't forget those things. So for the teacher, it could be small, but for the student, it's huge, and it really is encouraging. And then giving information, like, you can't go wrong with education. I'm going to push education 24/7, 365, 366, right? Depending on if it's leap year or not. I'm going to push it, right? Because the more information you share, the more relevant, good, solid information you share, the more impact you have on people, because then they're taking it and they're running with it. And when you build people up, you can tell a 5-year-old something, they're going to remember it. They're going to be 75 and they're going to remember, my kindergarten teacher told me this. My kindergarten teacher told me I could be anything I wanted. My kindergarten, you heard black doctors talk. My Sunday school teacher told me I could be anything I wanted to be, so I became a doctor. Right? And it's a big words are such a big deal. Encouragement is such a big deal. Even when sometimes we take it lightly, it really is a huge deal. So thank you for sharing that. So one way we definitely can help other people, one way we really can push other people, is how we speak to them, the words that we say to them. I know it was a plant study done, right, where one plant, people said bad things, negative things to it. The plant started withering. People spoke positivity and affirmations over the other plant, right? And it grew, and it did well. It bloomed, and it really lived well. So if that is a plant, right, and we're this complex human being, if we start hearing things and we start putting things out there, oh my gosh, you don't know how much you can change the life of somebody because of what you said to them and how you encourage them. Even in just like simple as like, I hope you feel better, I hope you have a good day, right? I have people, just personal example, real simple. I have people in my life, like my close friends, my brothers, my sisters, people I do ministry with. And sometimes I don't think they understand when they send me a text and they like, I hope you have a good day, sis. Or, like the small things they say, it helps me have a good day. Like, even if I woke up this morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, when they be like, hey, you blah, 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 I hope you have a great day. I'm praying for you. I know you're going to go be great today. I don't think they understand just how much that does, right? And it's not like an egotistical thing. It's like a, wow, somebody was thinking of me and somebody thinks good things about me, even as an adult. That makes great impact, having good people around you to pour into you. And again, they're telling you this present day, real time, but it's affecting your future, even if it's your immediate future. Because now my whole day has shifted because my mind shifted. So my brother sends me this message of, be great. I'm praying for you this week. I know you have an amazing day. So now my mind shifted from, man, I don't feel like doing that, to somebody believe in me. So I am gonna have a good day. It is gonna be good. And even if it's not the best day, I still have this little silver lining that helps me keep moving. Right? So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. So the big thing again is this idea of reimagining. And again, just before I kind of wrap it up, is this idea, and it's Afrofuturism. So part of the conversation we talked about Sunday at the event, it was music, it was body movement, it was panels about how do we move forward, how do we improve relationships in the Black community, how do we improve where we are economically, how do we see our future, and how do we now build that future. So part of that is reinterpreting, right? So we can take our past and say, oh, this is why we can't move forward. Or we can take our past and see, okay, I see what Harriet Tubman did. I see what Malcolm X did. I see what A. Philip Randolph did. I see what Katie Cannon did. I see what Audre Lorde did. I see what Nina Simone did. And while they may have ran their section of the race, now it's time for me to pick it up and go versus, oh, they always knocking us down, right? Reimagining even where we come from in our perspective and reclaiming our past. Yes, these things happen. We acknowledge that it happened. We're aware that it happened, but we also reclaim it and say, you know what? This happened. And even through that, we still had moments of while we could have physically been in chains, our minds were able to imagine a free world. So we have people who are now on this Underground Railroad helping people escape to freedom, right? Yes, we were segregated, but we had these people that decided they want to take a seat, right? We had these people say, we're gonna sit in. We had these people, I'm gonna sit down because I know that somebody in the future is gonna need this, right? So we reclaiming these moments so that we can empower ourselves to move forward. So what does that look like present day? So I'm gonna share, I would love for you to share with me what that looks like you. Like, we may not have the Birmingham, we may not have the boycott, right? Or we may not have the sit-ins, we may not have the Underground Railroad present day, but for you, right, and your imagination and your planning, hey, Precious, what does that look like for you? So, okay, there's no Underground Railroad. Okay, there's no boycott. There may be boycotting. Let me not say that. There's no sit-ins. There's no bus boycott. But what might that look like for you, right? So for me, one, and again, this is going back to the vent. This is why I go so hard for the vent. Is for me, it is creating safe spaces for people to speak, for people to be heard, because a big passion for me is often people do not get the space or the time or the agency or the autonomy to speak how they really feel, right? Because they're either in spaces where they feel like they're going to be judged, or they're in spaces where they're not at the table. So they may be in the room, but they're not at the table. So they have not been empowered to speak. So the vent is a space where, come on in here. We're going to talk about it. I want to hear from you. And for people who may be like, well, I don't really want to say nothing. You don't have to say anything, but the hope is that you hear it, you grab what you need, you have your own imagination working, and you take it back to your family, you take it back to your friend circle, you take it back to your coworkers, you take it back to people you have influence over, and you have those conversations at home. You have those conversations in the barbershop. You have those conversations in the hair salon. You have those conversations on campus. You have those conversations on lunch break when you call your boo. You have those conversations in pockets, so you're empowered. You know what? I can talk about this. You know what? That is something that's bothering me, right? So maybe you're not on this space talking about it, but I hope that it does empower you to at least start thinking and start having a conversation with people that you trust, so that when the event comes to your city, or when we are, you're now like, you know what? I do have something to say. Or I am, you don't even have to say nothing. Again, you know what? I'm gonna start something, or I'm gonna do this, or I've been reinvigorated. I have been recharged to go out and do something that maybe I believed in before, and I kind of was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Or you believed in it before and something happened to make you feel like it wasn't possible. So my goal with the event is to create a safe space, so that even if you don't have it somewhere else, you can come here, we can talk about it, we can hash it out, we can agree to disagree, we can respectfully hear people out, and then you take it and you go and you create spaces in your context, right? So that is one thing for me, is creating the safe space to even just spark the conversation for others to take it and run with it. For you, it may be something else, and I would love to hear what that may be for you. And again, you can, if you are on IG, you can drop it either in the comments, or there's a question box. So if you want to do it anonymously, you can do that. If you're on Facebook, you can always send something in Messenger, or you can drop it in the comments as well, because I do understand that everybody doesn't want to publicly say something, and that's cool. And some of you come to listen, and I love that, again, because you can be listening with your family, with your friends, by yourself, and you can take whatever you need and run with it. Hey, Keith, thanks for coming in. So that's kind of like, I guess, to kind of sum up our conversation, sum up our time together. I know it's getting late. We usually go for 9 to 10. The biggest thing is like reimagining what can be. So it is putting yourself in a space where okay, life is not necessarily what I thought it was going to be. I'm not necessarily in the space that I thought, and that's not a bad thing. I'm now reimagining what can be. So I saw myself in one place, but now that's shifted. So now that I have the space to change, what can I reimagine? Like, what can I invent? Like, have you ever thought about inventing something? Have you ever thought about starting something new? Have you ever thought about just branching out and jumping out? Like, the first thing that came to your mind, you were like, nah, that's too much. That's too big. Like, that's the thing that you start working on because you don't know who has the other pieces, right? So I want to go do this, but I don't have the money. Right. Or I want to go do this, but I don't have enough resources or enough people to pull on. But once you kind of put it out there, right? You down, oh, somebody else pops up like, what? You want to do that? I've been thinking about doing something like that, right? And now you now form this group because somebody decided, you know what, I'm gonna say something, right? I want to write futuristic novels with Black characters, right? Somebody one day somebody said that and it caught on. There's a publisher that wants to publish books like that. There's an editor and they've been waiting for this to come across their screen or come across their table, right? There are people who've been waiting to emulate and to connect with characters that move, use language like them, use the same jargon, are from similar neighborhoods as them. And it all started with an idea in somebody's head of them reimagining, right? Like the Jetsons, I don't remember having nobody look like me, but somebody got a whole new 2024 version of the Jetsons that looks like them, right? And they got a dog that can't come in the kitchen. And they got, you know what I'm saying? They got this because they reimagine what could be, right? So I hope we leave with knowing like you don't have to stick to the status quo. You don't have to do things how they've been done all the time. And you really don't have to be, and we talked about this last week, either or. You can be and both. Like you can be and both. Like you can have your locks and your kente and your mud claw, and you can like build an online city and people can order things and it gets shipped to their house, right? You can have a restaurant and your restaurant is a food truck that goes to different states and regions and sells your grandmama's recipes, right? It's the present and the future, right? You can build, you know, like it's you can do whatever is in your head, you can do it. You just got to start it. Like you got to reimagine it and then not be afraid to have to go back and redraft it. Right, go like, okay, that didn't work out as planned. And instead of stopping, reimagine. Like, all right, that didn't go right, but let me try something else versus that didn't go right. Now we're done. No, it didn't go right, but you don't even know what right is because you ain't never done it. Right? So go forward knowing that you have the power to reimagine, to reignite, to refocus and do things outside of the box with no shame, right? And just do it. And once you start speaking it and once you start putting it out there, there are going to be people that resonate with it. And they're going to be right there with you, helping you and building alongside you. And y'all going to create this whole new future for people who didn't even know they would be in the future or that didn't even know that this type of future existed for them. So now not only do you build a new future, but you also spark the imagination of others and say, oh, they can do that. What could I possibly do? Right? Now we got this marketplace that has moved from like there's this farmers market and this market in Ghana, and now that market is in like Virginia Beach, and they're selling things, and you can order things, and it gets a drone drops it at your front porch. I don't know what you want to do, but you can mix the old and the new in a way that creates this Afro futuristic future and sparks the imagination of others and gives them the confidence to try things that other people may be like, no, you crazy. Yes, I'm crazy. We crazy and we doing it because it's crazy until it works. Airplanes, hot air balloons, race cars, cell phones, pagers, Heelys, right? Crazy until it was done. So go do that crazy thing and enjoy it and know that you have backup because somebody is just as crazy as you are and they're gonna come along for the ride, and they got your back. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed y'all. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for taking this ride with me. And I hope that I know that your future is going to be great. And I know that great things are coming towards you because you are reimagining what that can be. So I will see y'all next week. We will be back next week with the event. Next week, same place, different time, right? Because we're going to be on time next week. So I will see y'all next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. Good night.